Hey everyone, Matt here from Proof Fly Fishing. In today's videos, I'm going to take just a few minutes and explain the different types of ferrules that you'll find on fly rods ranging from bamboo, graphite or carbon fiber, and fiberglass. So to get things started, what are ferrules? Ferrules are the way that we connect the different sections of a fly rod together. It's that transition point. So with bamboo, we've done another series specifically on bamboo ferrules because they're kind of complicated and there are multiple different styles depending on the rod you're working with. But the way you're going to recognize bamboo ferrules is they're going to be made out of some sort of metal. Traditionally that metal is nickel silver, and I will direct you to the other videos that we've done on understanding ferrules for a more in-depth treatment on working with bamboo rods. The most common type of ferrule that you're going to find today is going to be called a tipover. So you'll have your two rod sections. The upper section, or the section furthest away from the reel seat and grip on the rod, is going to be the female section, and that is going to be a sleeve that the lower section fits into. It's just a friction fit. It's a seamless transition. I'll do a close-up here in just a minute of what those two sections look like, but the majority of carbon fiber fly rods today are going to have tip-over ferrules. You will find a few exceptions. I have an older Scott rod that has a different style of ferrule called a spigot ferrule that I'll get into in just a moment, but the overwhelming number of fly rods today are going to have the tip-over ferrules. On a tip-over ferrule, typically just the female or the upper end receives a ferrule wrap. The lower end is typically reinforced, at least all of our blanks are, and do not need a ferrule wrap below the joint. The next type of ferrule is called a spigot ferrule. This is a traditional ferrule on a fiberglass fly rod. So if you're dealing with an older rod or a number of modern, especially the higher end rods today in fiberglass, all continue to use the spigot ferrule. So they're recognized most easily. Typically the spigot, which is this little extension kind of coming out of the lower section of the blank, is going to be a different color. It's not always, but in a lot of cases it is. So the way a spigot ferrule is formed is you start with the lower section, and then you have a piece of matching fiberglass that is inserted usually from the bottom up, and then it protrudes from the end of the actual blank. That protrusion or spigot then will fit into the upper section with a friction fit. Now what you're left with in a properly fitting spigot ferrule is going to be a little bit of a gap. You're going to see that spigot between the two rod sections. Some people don't like that, and there's a couple options for closing that gap up a bit. You can very lightly sand that lower section. I would use something like a 600 or an 800 grit paper to do so. I will caution you though, be careful. You're dealing with very small tolerances here and it's easy to overdo it. And what you don't want is for these sections to completely touch the upper and lower section. That's a good way for that rod to become loose over time by keeping a small gap, and this one has a nice gap. It's about 1/4 inch, and it'll vary between rods and different manufacturers. But 1/4 inch, sometimes a little bit more, is a nice amount of that spigot to have showing to ensure that as this rod is assembled and disassembled, and you're going to get a little bit of wear, so that gap will close up. But that'll just give you a little bit of tolerance there to ensure you get a good tight fit and those rod sections are not going to come apart on you, especially when you're fishing. So on a spigot ferrule, just like in a graphite rod, you're going to do a ferrule wrap on the upper section, the female section of that ferrule, to reinforce it. We also carry a small metal ring called a ferrule band that you can put over that female section as well, which will add additional support and also just a little bit more of a finished look. On a spigot ferrule, you can wrap the lower ferrule as well to reinforce it. Typically on lighter weight rods, I'd say 5 weight and below, I don't. But we do offer an 8 weight in fiberglass. It's a ton of fun to fish. And for that, I tend to reinforce both the upper and the lower part of that ferrule just to give everything a little bit of extra support. I've never had one fail, but it never hurts to add a little extra support where it might need it. So again, I'll do a close-up of the spigot ferrule, and I'll do one of the Tipover, and I direct you to our additional resources and videos if you're working with a bamboo rod. So there's the major difference between ferrules. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and thanks for watching.